What if everything you've ever believed in, every value, every purpose, every moral compass, was an illusion? Would life still be worth living if the universe were indifferent to your existence? Thus begins the philosophical journey into nihilism, a worldview that stares into the void and asks unsettling questions about meaning, morality, and existence itself. The notion of nihilism, derived from the Latin nihil, meaning nothing, suggests that life is devoid of inherent meaning, purpose, or value. While this idea has haunted human thought for centuries, it was Friedrich Nietzsche who brought it to the forefront of modern philosophy. But how did nihilism emerge? What makes it so compelling and terrifying, and what does it mean for us today? To understand nihilism, we must step back into the corridors of history, where the roots of this worldview were planted long before Nietzsche. The seeds of nihilism can be traced back to the ancient skeptics of Greece, like Pyrrho of Elis, who questioned whether anything could be known with certainty. However, nihilism as we know it today emerged in response to the Enlightenment, a period when reason and science dethroned religious and traditional sources of meaning. The Enlightenment was supposed to illuminate the human condition. Reason, logic, and empirical observation were heralded as the tools that would bring clarity to existence. But as the philosopher Max Stirner pointed out in 1844, the destruction of religious dogmas and universal truths left individuals with nothing to cling to. It was like a ship sailing on an endless sea without a compass. This intellectual crisis deepened in the 19th century Russia, where nihilism became a cultural phenomenon. Ivan Turgenev's novel from 1862 popularized the term through the character of Bazarov, a young man who rejected all societal conventions, traditions, and beliefs. Russian nihilism was more than a philosophical stance, it was a social and political revolt against the old order. One compelling narrative that illustrates this shift is Dostoevsky's, also known as A Dark Tale of Ideological Possession and Societal Collapse. The novel follows a group of young radicals, led by the fanatical Pyotr Verkovensky, who believe in the destruction of the existing order to build a new world. Yet their nihilistic principles lead only to chaos, murder, and despair. Dostoevsky paints nihilism here as a force that, when unmoored from compassion and moral responsibility, can turn into a societal poison. Yet the most profound exploration of nihilism came from Friedrich Nietzsche, a solitary philosopher who declared, "God is dead." Nietzsche was not a nihilist, he was a diagnostician of nihilism. In his works, particularly he analyzed how the decline of religion and the rise of scientific rationality led to a cultural void. For centuries, religious narratives provided people with a sense of cosmic purpose, but as scientific discoveries challenged these narratives, society faced an existential vacuum. Nietzsche proclaimed, "God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him." This statement wasn't a celebration, but a lamentation. Nietzsche saw nihilism as the inevitable consequence of this death, the collapse of the grand narratives that gave life its meaning. Nietzsche presents the character Zarathustra, a prophet who descends from the mountains to preach the death of God, and the need for mankind to overcome nihilism by creating its own values. In this narrative, Zarathustra encounters characters representing various facets of nihilistic despair, the despondent, the cynically indifferent, and those who cling to outdated moral structures. Through Zarathustra's teachings, Nietzsche offers a path beyond nihilism, the path of the who embraces life's chaos and crafts meaning from the void. Nihilism is not a monolith, it branches into several forms, each challenging different aspects of existence. Existential nihilism. The most well-known form, existential nihilism, asserts that life has no inherent meaning or purpose. The universe is indifferent to human existence, and any attempt to impose meaning is a subjective illusion. Albert Camus grappled with this perspective he likened human life to the plight of Sisyphus, condemned to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity. The task is meaningless, yet Camus concluded that one must imagine Sisyphus happy, rebelling against absurdity by embracing it. Another novel that delves into existential nihilism is Franz Kafka's. The protagonist, Joseph K., is arrested and prosecuted by an opaque, inaccessible legal system without ever knowing the nature of his crime. Kafka's narrative captures the absurdity and futility of human existence in a world devoid of clear meaning or justice. Moral nihilism rejects the notion of objective moral truths. It argues that concepts of right and wrong are human constructs without universal validity. Nietzsche explored this where he criticized conventional morality as a tool for social control. A literary exploration of moral nihilism appears in Dostoevsky's. Rodion Raskolnikov, the protagonist, justifies murdering a pawnbroker under the belief that certain individuals have the moral right to transcend ordinary moral constraints. Yet the psychological torment that follows reveals the existential and moral cost of this nihilistic reasoning. This form questions the possibility of knowledge itself. Can we ever truly know anything about the world? Radical skepticism pushes this idea to the extreme, suggesting that our perceptions and beliefs are ultimately unfounded. The novel by Dostoevsky presents a narrator who dissects his consciousness to the point of intellectual paralysis. His extreme skepticism about social norms, relationships, and even his own motivations showcases the isolating and self-destructive potential of epistemological nihilism. Confronting nihilism can evoke despair. The realization that life lacks intrinsic meaning can feel like an existential freefall. This condition, known as the abyss in Nietzschean terms, can lead to feelings of isolation, depression, and apathy. In Albert Camus' novel, Meursault's apathetic response to life's events, including his mother's death and his own impending execution, illustrates the emotional detachment that can accompany existential nihilism. Yet, Camus suggests that acknowledging life's absurdity can lead to a form of liberation. Yet Nietzsche believed nihilism also presented an opportunity. The collapse of old values makes way for the creation of new ones. He envisioned the emergence of the overman, an individual who forges personal meaning through creativity, strength, and self-overcoming. Today, nihilism resonates in art, literature, and pop culture. From the existential dread in Kafka's to the absurd humor of the themes of meaninglessness and existential freedom permeate modern narratives. Chuck Palahniuk's explores nihilism through its unnamed protagonist and Tyler Durden, who reject consumerist culture and societal norms in search of raw, authentic experience. The novel questions the values that modern society imposes, and the existential void that arises when these values are dismantled. Philosophically, nihilism continues to challenge thinkers. Existentialists like Camus and Sartre offer the idea of creating personal meaning in an indifferent universe. Meanwhile, contemporary philosophers debate whether scientific discoveries about consciousness and the universe render nihilism obsolete or reaffirm its insights. Nihilism forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. It strips away comforting illusions and leaves us with the raw, unvarnished reality of existence. Yet within this bleakness lies potential. As Nietzsche wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Perhaps the true lesson of nihilism is not that life is meaningless, but that meaning is ours to create. The abyss may stare back at us, but it also reflects our freedom, the freedom to craft our purpose in a universe that owes us none. Novels like and show us the dangers of nihilistic despair, but they also illuminate paths of resilience and meaning-making. Nihilism challenges us to become the authors of our lives, to write our own stories with courage and creativity. In the end, the question nihilism poses is not simply, does life have meaning, but what meaning will you choose to give it? For in the face of the void, human imagination becomes our greatest tool, capable of turning even the abyss into a canvas of endless possibility.